some stuff for us.
I don't have a whole lot, just mainly the issue with the security at the courthouse, or the Justice Center rather. I had sent out an email. I didn't have your personal email address, Mr. Hayes, but I did have Mr. Bass's, and of course I had Mr. Colbert's. I sent it to all the elected officials, as well as my staff, addressing the fact that effective February 1st, we'll no longer have security at our door, metal detector, surveillance, any of that. We will have a bailiff provided for each time a judge is actually sitting on a bench. That, I don't know if you had an opportunity to read the email that I sent, but certainly comes with a lot of concern for not only our staff members, but also for the numerous victims who have gotten wind of the situation, and who already find this, you know, an egregious process coming into our Justice Center to deal with their accuser, or the accused, I should say. You know, there are cases across the country, and as close as here in Missouri, where, if you recall, the gentleman that went into the town hall meeting where there's no security at the door, and while there's still a bailiff, they come in and just open fire. I mean, I can't tell you, from my perspective, you know, legally I'm allowed to carry inside the courthouse, inside the courtroom. But other than myself and a commissioned officer and the judge, no one else is allowed to do that. Do I think that that's the safest mechanism for me to have a gun on my hip? No, because certainly I'm not nearly as trained as those that are trained to use them and trained to watch for those sorts of things. Not to mention the fact that for the 98% of the time we're in the courtroom, our back is to those people that have come through the door with no metal detector. So, I know Grace had an appointment with you today. I've talked with the judges, Judge Beck specifically, Judge Birkin for a little bit, and I understand that Judge Vildine isn't really overly concerned. The others do not share that position. It's certainly a point of real discontent over there, and I'm hopeful that you guys can help us figure out a way to remedy that problem so that it isn't just an every man for himself scenario, and you know, we can continue to properly prosecute, because I can tell you, sometimes I still have to send somebody to pick up victims because they're so scared to come in. The thought of them being able to come in, or having to come in, knowing that there's nobody to really stop that individual. I mean, we're dealing with literally murder. We're dealing with, you know, we've got 4 or 5 times a week that somebody's going to be sent away on child molestation and literally ruining their lives. We stopped people today. I told you the feds came in and arrested a person I had set for jury trial this morning. There was a big brouhaha. He had something in his boot. I mean, without the use of those types of equipment, we're not going to find that stuff. And it puts all of us in, you know, in jeopardy. And I know some people may say, well, you know, you chose to be in that line of work. Well, that's true. But at the same time, not with the understanding that I didn't have a county and community behind us that cared as much about our safety as they did the safety of the constituents here.
There's no statute that requires the sheriff to provide security?
No. Statute requires that the sheriff provides a bailiff in the courtroom where a judge is on the bench. And that's the extent of it. So,
see, I've heard varying opinions on that. I had someone tell me, I haven't talked about it's the sheriff's responsibility to provide security to the courthouse, specifically whenever there's a judge seated. But as far as the other times, I think there's some question as to whose responsibility that is. Let me just say that we set the sheriff's budget at $3.85 million this year. There are law enforcement departments operating in similar size situations with that amount of money. I want this situation to be rectified, but instead of taking the knee-jerk reaction of firing people effective February the 1st, maybe we should think about not serving jalapeno poppers to our inmates. I don't know how many people he's let go, but we overspend to the tune enough money on food due to lack of management of that particular facet of the jail to probably employ 2 people.
Well,
But it's a whole lot easier to create a sensational, I'm letting the people go, than it is to put a little management into your food. But I don't get jalapeno poppers at home. I don't get raisin bread at home. I don't get cookies at home, mostly because I'm diabetic. But, you know, it's a whole lot easier just to let people go and try to create a, we have a crisis situation now because someone has chosen to do that as opposed to manage the department a little bit.
well, and understand, I mean, and I don't mean to disrespect,
Sure.
but at this stage of the game, I realize there's an equivocation of terms between the commission and the sheriff regarding the way he spends money and the way he manages and the way he does whatever with his budget. That no longer affects me, other than we need security in that building, however it needs to happen. The sheriff is in control of how he spends the money that's allocated to him, and if he's not required to do it, he's not going to do it. Based on the fact that whatever your all's issues are. My issue is, we can all talk until we're blue in the face about jalapeno poppers and raisin bread or whatever kind of beans they buy. I don't know. But that's not going to solve the problem that February 1st we don't have somebody there manning our metal detectors. If it's something that I can do, I mean, I obviously need authority and I need funding to do it. If it's something you all can do, I don't know who needs to do it, but I know that from a community standard, it doesn't make any sense at all. The disagreement between the 2 departments makes no sense at all, to have 60 people putting their lives in jeopardy when we have this type of clientele coming through our doors every day, whether court's in session or it's not.
I agree with you completely, but it seems like to me these appeals and concerns need to be made to the sheriff.
Well, they have been. I mean, believe me, if it weren't at this stage where we're looking at a week from now, either people don't come to work. I mean, I'm really the only one obligated to show up. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I would hope that that it's not just, to me, it's like a card game between the 4 of you 3 and the sheriff, and it's who's holding the best hand and who's going to call who's bluff. And frankly, that's all fine and great among 4 men, but when the rest of us get caught in the crossfire, I'm going to stand up for the 16 individuals that work for me, as well as the other people who work in the building, as well as the 2,200 victims that I have to support and I've been sworn to support and protect. And I can't do that without security. I mean, that's an issue. It's a huge issue. And there's cases all over the place, and I mean, I'm appalled that it's even come to this. I mean, frankly.
Me too.
All the
Yeah,
things.
Me too, I agree.
I'm totally surprised that's what he picked to do.
Well, he's gonna take those individuals and he's gonna put them on the road serving papers and put them on the road doing road work. Because in theory, which I can't argue necessarily is a bad phrase, to have 4 individuals in a courthouse protecting 60 people is not as important to have 4 individuals on the road protecting 52,000. Again, the way he spends the budget is not, I mean, not my concern, but I know I speak for the clerk's office as well as myself and the juvenile office, that we don't want to operate, nor do we feel we can operate under those conditions. And I'm happy to do whatever it takes to be creative, strategic, whatever. I don't know what the answer is, but I think that from a public perspective, in a week, it's going to be far worse than what it is. And frankly, I've squelched people going to the press for 2 reasons. 1, I thought hopefully we could address it here. And 2, I don't really want every Tom, Dick, and Harry to know that we don't have security at our courthouse.
Right.
So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place where that's concerned.
Yeah, I'm back between a rock and a hard place. I've taken time away from the rock and the hard place that exists within the jail to spend a little rock and a hard place here, because we appropriated more money to police a county of 52,000 people than has been appropriated in counties with 75,000 people. And because of this, it's not a card game for me. I'm not bluffing anybody. You know, he's talking about, you know, taking those bailiffs out of there. He's made that choice. And by the time we factor in the jail improvement fund, which doesn't exist in every other county, he's gotten about $400,000 more than some of these bigger counties.
But if you took the amount that's appropriated through the tax levy, and you didn't put any of that money into the jail at all,
Right.
and that money was strictly used for law enforcement,
We'd
it
have-
would more than,
We'd have bailiffs coming out the windows.
and we'd have more than enough to cover the amount that we need on the roads and in patrol and in the investigative portion, as well as have court security. But a lot of that 2.1 million or whatever was estimated at this year goes into the jail, which everyone's agreed is a loser, you know, as far as from a financial perspective. But unfortunately, it's the albatross that we have. It's a cost of doing business, and because this jail sits there and we have people in it, now what's happening is the security of those of us that want to work for the county and that want to help the people in this community gets compromised because the money hasn't been managed the way you think it should have, or he thinks it should have, or whatever the case may be. So again, I don't think we can necessarily look back and fix what happened last month or last year, but certainly prospectively we should be able to address these concerns. And you know, I try to be as diplomatic in approaching the 3 of you as I possibly can, and have been, I feel, in the last year. But now I'm at a place where I've got, again, 16 individuals and my phone ringing off the hook with victims calling saying there's no way I'm coming in there. And I don't know how to do that job with minus that component.
Right? And you shouldn't be expected to. But the reason you're being asked to is because someone was given ample amounts of money.
And I'm not disputing that.
I mean, every phone call you get should get forwarded to him.
But it doesn't fix the problem. That's my issue.
Right. And my only issue is that you get down to brass tacks, it shouldn't have gotten to this point. We appropriated money. Hey, run the department. And other things have taken priority over the safety of you and your staff, not because of what we did.
Yeah, I'm not.
But now it's in we have to come up with a solution to some